Hello, everybody, and welcome again. This is Turning Towards Life, and we are Lizzie and Justin here again for another wonderful wandering into things that we don't yet know. And we are ever grateful to be here, ever grateful to the people who are listening. Hello to you directly. Hello to you, wherever you are. I have a picture on my background of my computer at the moment of a forest, and I'm imagining that some people might be in a forest listening. Justin might be walking a dog or going for some kind of ramble somewhere. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, maybe you're in the car listening to this with somebody that you want to have a certain kind of conversation with or something, and you're using this as a kind of preamble, which is actually quite a good thing to do, by the way, if you haven't tried that already. And it's just excellent, Justin, that we keep coming up with these sources. And I love Wendell Berry, and thank you for choosing something by Wendell Berry today. And thank you, Justin, for always being here, always coming, always turning up, and for us seeing what this is. This is another instance, Justin, where, as you know, I've read this and gone, I've got no idea what this is on about. So it really is new territory all the time for me. And I'm really grateful for that opening and that unknowing and that undoing of the fact that I should know what's going on, or I should know what something means, and trusting the innate somethingness that's between us, that we'll find some wonder even when we don't know initially what on earth is going on or what something means. So thank you for that safety to be that, and for this to be that kind of conversation.
You're very welcome. Hello, Lizzie. It's really good to be with you again. Hello, everyone. So just before we dive in, the source for this week, which is called, cryptically, Sabbaths 1993-1 by Wendell Berry, you can find in the show notes, you can find on the turningtowards.life website, you can find in the weekly email. And if you want to get access to some of those things, head over to turningtowards.life, where you'll find all the conversations that are there. You can sign up for the emails. You can support us if you like. We had, again, such a lovely experience this week, Lizzie, of somebody deciding to offer some support that way that was so very welcome. And then you told me about the connection, how this person had found us. Thank you for all of you who are supporting us, but also just for all of you who are with us in these growing circles of conversation and listening. And before we get into the source, I just want to say again, I think we'll be saying this for some time, that in September, we are turning towards life into new realms by launching alongside the podcast an offering called Turning Towards Life Live, where you'll be able to come and learn with us and learn with others in the same way that we do here on the podcast. It's going to start in September. It runs for 6-month seasons. You can find out about it at turningtowards.life. And what's more, you can register your interest if you'd like us to send you some information about it. And Lizzie, you and I were just getting excited about this. Can you remind me of the date?
The
June
8th of June.
8th of June. So the 8th of June, this is all 2025. We're aware that you may be listening in some other year, but 8th of June 2025 is our 400th episode, and we're going to do a little live on Zoom event on that day where you'll be able to come and join us to celebrate us turning 400. And it's going to be an opportunity to learn together and talk together. We will send out details in our email. So that's a really good reason to sign up for the emails on our website. And we'll tell you about it a little bit more as we get closer. But it's probably worth noting down that date. It'll be in the middle of the day UK time. So depending upon where you are in the world, you can start to calibrate if you'd like to join us. Lizzie, I think it would be amazing to meet people who've been, whether you've just found us or you've been traveling alongside us for a long time. That will be the first opportunity to come and meet us and meet one another, and you'd be very welcome to join us. So now we're turning to Wendell Berry's source, and I want to thank our friend Rosemary Watola Trommer, because I knew about this poem, Lizzie, because Rosemary quoted it at the start of one of her poems, and then I went back to read Wendell Berry. I think Wendell Berry is really worth finding out. He's such an extraordinary writer and poet. He's a farmer. He's a very, very deep thinker about the nature of the world that we live in, and imaginer of how the world could be and what it would take for us to be ones who brought forth a world that could yet be. So I really appreciate him for that. And you can find this in all the places I said. So maybe it's a moment just to take a breath. And if you want, and you're listening to us in a way where you can pause us and go and read the source beforehand, you're very welcome to, or you can just listen along with us. No, there is no going back. Less and less you are that possibility you were. More and more you have become those lives and deaths that have belonged to you. You have become a sort of grave containing much that was and is no more in time, beloved then, now, and always. And so you have become a sort of tree standing over a grave. Now, more than ever, you can be generous towards each day that comes, young, to disappear forever, and yet remain unaging in the mind. Every day you have less reason not to give yourself away.
Thank you, Justin. No, there is no going back. Less and less you are that possibility you were. More and more you have become those lives and deaths that have belonged to you. You have become a sort of grave containing much that was and is no more in time, beloved then, now, and always. And so you have become a sort of tree standing over a grave. Now, more than ever, you can be generous towards each day that comes, young, to disappear forever and yet remain unaging in the mind. Every day you have less reason not to give yourself away.
So I didn't know, Lizzie, when I chose this source earlier in the week, that I was also on a long journey back from somewhere yesterday, going to watch a film called Here, which I really enjoyed. And Here is a story of a house, and it's mostly a single frame. So the camera doesn't move anywhere at all. It just shows this house over time and what happens in the house. And a big part of Here is showing how a house changes hands over generations. So it sort of starts way before there were houses of the kind that we are now, and then it goes through a number of different generations in sort of contemporary times in America. But more interesting to me than all the different people who'd lived in the house, which I think is very interesting, and I wonder about that, about my own house and all of that kind of stuff. It's the story of a single family, and it traces a couple from the birth of the son of the family, who then meets a young woman, and then they get married and they have children of their own, and it traces his life and their lives from when he's born to when he's very old. And the film opens with him as an old man going back into the empty house to see it for one last time. And all the way through the film, in the life of this couple, played by Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, they talk about how quickly time goes. They're sort of startled. There's a 50th birthday party in the film where the person who's celebrating her 50th birthday says, "When I was 30, 50 was unimaginable. And now I'm 50, I cannot believe how quickly it's gone." And I could feel, the reason I'm bringing it up not only is because it was a really lovely film and I was very moved by it, it's where Wendell Berry starts this poem, I think, where he says, no, there's no going back. And I actually think that that's I think he's addressing one of the things. I suppose we probably don't start to feel this until a certain point in our life, where maybe one era of our life where we've been a particular way has clearly come to an end. But it could be as early as the move from adolescence into young adulthood, for example, where we look back and we go, wow, I was a child not that long ago, but I'm no longer a child. There's really something in us that longs to go back, that I think very often that doesn't get that being in time is what it means to be a human. And if we weren't in time in the way that we are, we couldn't be the kind of ones that we are. And we long to go back. We imagine that something wrong is happening because time keeps on going forwards. And then Wendell comes along and says, no, there's no going back. Your every day, the possibility of who you can be, the range of different ones you can be is shrinking, not because your creativity is shrinking. You could make lots of choices at any point in our lives about who we're going to be, but the amount of time to make that choice is inevitably shrinking. There is nothing to do apart from to face it. There's no going back. Less and less I'm the possibility than I am. More and more I'm becoming everything that's happened. I'm a sort of, it's a very shocking language. I'm a sort of grave, but what kind of grave? One that contains all kinds of things already. I contain so much that I have loved or not loved, but has been important to me. And now, because I've actually lived in life, and if I'm able to feel the weight of the life that I've lived rather than skating over it, I've become a sort of tree, something living, full of life, but standing over all that has been that can no longer live in the way that it did. So then I think I'm sort of reading through the poem because I want to get to this. There's something in the contemporary story we have about this, that somehow it's always better to have more time, that the correct state of being is to be young. And then we fight against not being young in the way that we were. And Wendell says, no, because now every day you can be more generous towards each day, knowing that the day will disappear forever, and you've got less and less reason to hold yourself out of life. Now, I love this last line, and there's lots to say about it, but I think what I'm most struck by is that in order to do that, in order to every day to have less reason not to give yourself away, in other words, every more reason to give ourselves away to life, takes actually seeing that time goes and that we are in time and of time, and we have no choice about it, and to give up all of our ranting and our resisting and our fighting time so that we can be just the ones that we are in whatever moment in life that we are. That for me seems to be such a big part in our growing up.
So when I read this, I really was really confused. And then when you read it to me, I understood every single word. It's so funny, isn't it?
It's great. Yeah.
So I feel, as you were talking, Justin, more and more my heart started aching and aching and aching and aching. And I'm feeling, I guess, the kind of associated grief that comes with this. And maybe one of the reasons that we do try and kind of wrangle time and control it and avoid and deny and all the things I can feel in myself is because there's quite an unbearable kind of grief that lies right next to this. Like if I really let this in, my whole chest hurts, and my, like, underneath my rib cage is really aching right now as I'm talking. And I already miss everyone. and long for everyone, and long for the life that was ridiculous and frivolous and unconcerned with many things that I'm now concerned with. And this first line, no, there's no going back. There's a really excellent kind of joy that comes from being told that straight, because it kind of meets my experience of the truth of, yeah, well, yeah, that's true. And there's an associated grief that comes in being told that. So it's funny that, you know, we've talked about kind of multitudinousness, like being many things at once. This poem for me just brings it really, really clear that at any one time I am many things, and right now I feel many things. I feel relieved to be told the truth. I feel grief filled. I feel a bit of panic. Oh my gosh, I haven't done all the things I'm supposed to have done. But this has really been with me for a while now, this feeling, watching my skin change, my body feeling a bit more achy, like, you know, things happening in my body that feel different than they did when I was in my 30s or whatever. And then people around me having more health events, and so it just becomes more a reality that things are going to end for all of us, rather than a kind of thought that you have in the future or something. And so I'm feeling compassion for all of us, as we don't want to feel this. We want to hang on, and we want to be free in our bodies and all of those things. And I also love that there is, you know, one thing I don't think exists enough in our world, Justin, is examples of, I guess maybe the word is elders, you know, those who have, who are these trees standing over the graves, having no reason not to give themselves away. And then that being communicated and kind of consciously, benevolently passed onwards, passed downwards, so that we have a kind of a blueprint for how to navigate and be and find grace in the piece of life that's just as valuable as any other piece of life, because it's a piece of life. How do we, just because it's not maybe productive or filled with energy or something, physical energy, it doesn't mean it's any less valuable. And yet I think it has been devalued. And I think that kind of eldership has, I don't know, shrunken away somehow. So then we all feel even more scared of this. And we needn't, because there's a kind of invitation here to become more and more generous in the face of, and in the context of, all of the grief and all of the letting go that's necessary and all the acceptance that's necessary. There's an outcome in that process that is generous, and less reason not to give myself away. And that feels like such a beautiful invitation. But I don't know whether that's a very kind of normal, culturally normal place for people to reach these days. And I want to appreciate Wendell Berry for being that one who can feel the value in his life to write from this place, and to feel his generosity and his benevolence toward the world in all directions. And that we get to participate in that. We don't have to dangle around not knowing and feeling fearful and thinking that we should be younger and be better and more productive and whatever, but that we can accept and be where we are fully and wholeheartedly. And that is a generous and good and necessary place, as you say, that's entirely inherent in being a human being. This will come. This is not to be avoided. It can't be.
I think one of the things many of us struggle with and suffer from, Lizzie, is that for many of us there's a lot less community around these days, so we don't get to jangle along with people who are of very different ages to us. So I think we pay a big price for that. And I also think we pay a big price for living in a culture that, for all of its many kinds of good, also teaches us that being somebody with loads of fresh possibility, new places to go, new things to do is much better than being the other way. And maybe it's that way because it's easier to sell things to younger people than older people in that regard. So we've conflated the market with value. You know, if you're sort of a participant in the market, you've got more value than if you don't. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with there being markets or anything like that, but I think we've made a really big mistake about how we value people and how we value time and how we value life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a couple of things. So one was I was having a little playful thought that if all things go well, Lizzie, when we get turning towards life going, perhaps it will be a multi-generational kind of community that builds, where it's possible to hang out with and learn from people of really different ages.
Yeah.
That was a sort of a parallel thought. But the other thought I had was actually two thoughts. So one is, I'm really glad that you mentioned grief, because I don't think we can do what Wendell Berry is asking us without grieving. And that's why his language of graves, being a tree standing over a grave, more and more, he says, we've become a sort of grave containing much that was but isn't anymore in time, that's beloved. I think as part of the same process, we've sort of privatized grief and shoved it off to the sides, and many of us don't have collective grieving, ways of grieving together. And I don't just mean grieving when somebody we love dies, but when something changes or a season of our life passes, or we lose something, a job or an opportunity or it would be very good for us to learn to grieve together. And that there are quite a lot of people these days talking about, I think, a very important thing that maybe we'll talk about at some point. Like, what is it to move beyond saying there's not that much community around these days to actually make community? You know, what does it take to go and knock on the door of your neighbors and say, hello, here I am? Like, start to rebuild what we lost so that we can sit and grieve together all these ordinary everyday losses. So we must do that, and not just live in a world where we say the only good things are happy feelings and easy things. We have to also really include the painful, heartbreaking difficulty. And what would it be to take up Wendell Berry's invitation to be able to say of ourselves as we age, which we're all doing, whether you're in your teens or your 20s, we're all passing through similar cycles of changing and loss and changing and loss. And obviously they're different as we get older, because our span of life possibility gets smaller. But to be able to say, I'm deliberately practicing learning how to become more generous towards each day. Because the story we have about time is that it's only losses. I've got less time. I'm older now. I have fewer opportunities. Maybe in some way that's true. But what Wendell Berry is showing us, that we could attend to becoming ones who take all that has been, that's inside us, that we're standing over. But like trees, it's a very powerful image, because trees take up what they're standing over and bring it up and out and into the world. That's what trees do. So a tree standing over a grave is doing that to say more and more, I'm going to work on undoing the ways that I hold back, the ways that I get afraid or embarrassed, the ways that I feel like I have to fit in order to make somebody else like me, all of those kind of dynamics, and start to say more and more, I'm going to find out how to become more generous towards each day that comes, that will disappear forever and yet remains also. I'm going to practice being someone who has less and less reason to hold back from giving myself away. What a story that is about how what we might be up to in life.
God, I'm really taken by this feeling of being the tree that has roots that go down into the grave and brings the graveness through into some natural beauty that's there and giving itself away fully to the world, and how all of the richness that comes from that soil is a still and beautiful expression of everything that went before, and how that can be honored and important and welcomed. Yeah, it's really, really wonderful to feel that possibility. And this line at the top, you're less that possibility that you were, and now a very different set of possibilities. And what possibilities are those? So not only looking at it as loss, but what if me not being that possibility means I'm another possibility? And what is that? And how do I find what that might be and articulate it and shift my orientation, so I'm not only looking at what I've lost, but what I'm now pointed towards, what I'm aimed at, who I can be now. And this kind of, it feels like the kind of generosity that just kind of lets go of any concerns about things that actually don't matter. Like, the gift of it feels like I can walk around in my pajamas and that's okay, kind of feeling to me. And that I don't have to manage everything anymore, and I can just live as an expression of myself in the moment that feels real and true to me, and that's just good enough. I don't have to perform, I don't have to get it right, I just can be myself. So I'm feeling this treeness and also trusting what's gone before, that it's here and that it's part of me and that it's part of my now gift, which is all that has gone and all that will come. And also in the conversation, Justin, you said something about time and that we only look at it as kind of things that are lost. And time always gets me as like this big discombobulating, strange old construct. And as soon as we start talking about it, I'm like, "Mm, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. It's not the deepest thing. It's something by which we measure things and we can feel it in our bodies as we age, and we can watch it in others as they become. But it is like we put a label on something. We put language to something, but it's not the thing itself. And so when you were talking about the film, when people are saying, oh my gosh, time just goes so quickly. And I've got young children, so I can see it goes quickly and it goes extremely slowly when I'm still cleaning up cereals from under the seat for the 6,000 millionth time or whatever. And I think the fact that it has those attributes of going quickly and going slowly at the same time, for me, points to life itself being the kind of the undercurrent of it all, which is not really kind of governed by time, but it is kind of experienced through time or something. Anyway, as soon as I start talking about it, everything feels like it kind of comes apart. Like, it doesn't seem sufficient anymore to just end at the concept of time as a given. It's like, oh no, that is something that is undoable, and I don't have to be bound by it or something. So I'm feeling kind of thrown and welcomed and relieved and grief filled and grateful and like met, I think, is the biggest word I can find, like the biggest meaning of this for me. So, Justin, thank you for bringing this in an extremely excellent, timely way. Thank you to Wendell Berry for writing this way. And thank you for this conversation. And what you said about Turning Towards Life becoming a community where we are a kind of intergenerational who-ness collection of humans makes me feel very excited. And just to say at the end of this as well, the 8th of June, 2025, we're going to gather and hopefully see each other's faces in a bigger community. And that'll be the beginning of it all. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Justin. And we'll be back again next week.
Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, everyone.